Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you. In one of my previous videos I talked about 7 things that would terrify most Americans, so now we're going to do 7 things about America that would terrify most Swedes. Let's get into it. Number 1 has to be shoes inside. Now, some Americans get upset when I talk about this one because they always say like, oh, we take our shoes off when we go inside. It does depend where you live in the United States. If you're in New York City, for example, you're going to be crazy if you don't take your shoes off inside. But a lot of different people in the United States welcome guests in their home and keep their shoes on, and it's more common than you would think. And I really think that would terrify most Swedes. They would be kind of disgusted by that. But we have carpet and we don't have the grus like you guys have, so that's number 1. Number 2 has to be Americans saying hi. You know, when I was in the United States, one thing I really remembered is like how much we wave and say hi to one another. I was running in my parents' neighborhood, and every time another runner went by, I was waving at them, and then like cars were driving by, the neighbors, and they were waving at me. And I realized like when I used to run a lot in the States, we would always wave at one another and just say hi. And we say hi, how are you so much. And you know, Swedes kind of like to keep to themselves unless you're in a small town. And I think at first, people just saying hi to Swedes so much would be something that they would find very, very terrifying. Especially like one time I waved to a Swede when I first came to Sweden when I was on a run, and I got they had like the most terrified look on their face, and then I decided to never wave at a Swede again. Number 3 has to be the healthcare costs. You know, if you come to Sweden from the United and you live in the US, and let's say you've been living there for a while and you have to get health insurance and pay for things, it's a really weird situation in the United States, because a few things I've heard from people that work in healthcare is if someone doesn't have any healthcare or insurance in the United States, or let's say they're not in the country legally or whatever, they won't get like a bill for their healthcare. But one of the issues in the United States right now with healthcare is that the costs are going up so much, and it's typically like the middle class that gets screwed. And what I mean by this is there's a lot of people right at that middle class level that maybe can't afford something, or let's say they need to go to an appointment, and we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars sometimes. And that's the thing, you have these people in the middle class that can't afford it either, that also need it to be free, but a lot of people get kind of screwed. And it's a shame really to see that it happens. In my personal opinion, I think people that don't have insurance, people in the middle class, and even people in the upper class should have the ability to take some type of free healthcare if they want, or still have private healthcare, kind of like how Sweden does it here. But that would be something that would terrify Swedes. On top of that, the cost of insulin in the United States is insane if you compare it to other countries. And on top of that, medications. You know, I've always kind of considered to myself that if the United States government had to pay for medication, you would see the costs of medication drop dramatically. Number 4 in the US has to be tipping. I think this is something that would terrify most Swedes at first, because you gotta kind of understand how to tip. You know, in Sweden, it's not, you can round up on a bill and you can tip a few crowns here and there, and it's always like a nice thing to do and a nice gesture. But like a lot of servers in Sweden just have like a set salary to begin with, where a lot of people in the United States, if you're a bartender working in a restaurant, really depend on tips. And it's usually 15 to 20% is what we tip, and 20% is like excellent service. For me, I usually always tip 20%. And I think that's something that would terrify most Swedes at first, because they don't understand their view. They're like, why not just pay them a really good salary as opposed to doing the tipping? But I've seen both sides of it. I've seen people like they can work and they get a bad night and they don't get much tip. But I've seen other people that work in the service industry that can make almost $500 a night, between $300 and $500 a night on like a Friday or a Saturday, depending on where you live in the US. I guess that matters. Like if you're living in LA, I guess $500 isn't that much, but if you're living in a small town or something, that can go much farther. And I just think Swedes trying to figure out the tip, understand how the tipping culture works in the United States, would be something that they would find terrifying. Number 5 has to be recycling. You know, it actually frustrates me when I'm in the United States about this, how America does such a bad job at recycling. When I was home, we were going to recycle some electronics, and we had to drive like 30 minutes to go recycle. And like just the fact that you're in Sweden, and if you live in an apartment complex or a house, there's like a place where you can recycle most of your stuff, and then after that you can go to like a major recycling center that's usually not super far away, I think, where you can recycle things like TVs, a couch, just it's a better place to go and do that. And in America, we are so bad with recycling. It's frustrating. I get upset sometimes when I just see like trash cans. It's like you immediately get to Europe and it's like there's a place for plastic, there's a place for paper, there's a place for aluminum. And in the States, we just have a generic recycling, and in a lot of cases, we're just not doing the best job with recycling. That would terrify most Swedes, especially if you consider the fact that we have the biggest footprint when it comes to like pollution, when it comes to like things like landfills, and it's something that we need to improve upon. And I just think that most Swedes would find it frustrating about this. Now on to the next one. But first, our video is sponsored by Skillshare.
Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators, exploring new skills, deepening existing passions, and get lost in creativity. You can take classes like photography, music, film and video, illustration. My Sambo has been using Skillshare for over 2 years and is happy and loves it. I, for one, am excited to watch YouTube Success Scripts shoot and edit with MKBHD, Marcus Brownie, one of my favorite YouTubers. And it's so much fun and interesting to just see his process and how he thinks and learn from one of the best. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads, there's always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused and follow whatever your creativity takes you. It's the perfect thing to do right now with the current world situation. Why not learn something? They're running a special offer through my channel. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today.
Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring my video. I've really liked the service, and currently I'm learning a lot about audio and video editing, and thanks again. All right, the next one has to be things that go boom. And I don't want to get demonetized, so I'm just going to say our laws with things that go boom, I think would terrify most Swedes. And depending on where you live, you might see people with things that go boom on their side, and they're just walking around. Like if you're in Texas, you're going to see that a lot. I've seen it in Western Pennsylvania. It's perfectly legal to open carry things that go boom. And I think most Swedes would just kind of find that terrifying, especially with the current climate and things going on in the United States. And it's something where a lot of Americans say like, hey, this is my freedom, I have the freedom to do this, and they exercise it, and they're always afraid that it's going to completely get taken away anytime there wants to be any common sense laws with things that go boom. But that would be something I would find that most Swedes would be terrified of. They wouldn't completely understand, because Swedes do have things that go boom here. They have kind of better regulations. And we don't have issues with people going around with things that go boom and causing chaos and problems, where it's a common occurrence in the United States, and you get numb over things that go boom after a while, like incidents happening and things like that. And every time we try to put common sense laws in place for things that go boom, it's a mess. And I think it has a lot to do with the things that go boom market gives a lot of money to politicians. It's big business in the United States, and on top of that, there's half of the population that really cares about this issue. And to a Swede, they would just find the whole thing terrifying. They would find our rules with it terrifying, and they would see some people with these things go boom and be a little bit terrified about it. But in most cases, if you're in the United States, I will say it's not something you even really notice, because most people have they have a private carry, or I forget what the word is like a permit to carry, but you don't like show your thing that goes boom, it's private. So after a while, once Swedes kind of got used to it, in most cases it's not an issue and things can feel safe in the United States. But obviously it's something that I would like to see better taken care of in the US. The last one has to be coffee. I think most Swedes would be terrified of the coffee that we have, because a lot of Europeans, and especially Swedes, will call American coffee brown water. And although Swedes would come to the States and definitely like Insta story them having like a Starbucks in LA or like New York or something like that, most Swedes view our coffee is not strong enough. And it is interesting, because when you come to Sweden and you drink the coffee, it is much darker and it definitely hits you much harder, I would say. When I first came to Sweden and I was working, me and my friend were drinking Swedish coffee, and we didn't realize we were just like high off of caffeine all the time. We were like, let's go do this, let's go do that. We were so pumped, we were so excited constantly, so positive, and really we were just super whacked out on caffeine. And Swedes would miss their coffee in a lot of cases. and not like it. That's my 7. I try to keep this one kind of fun and lighthearted. I try to stay away from a lot of serious things, but I might do another video on this if you guys really like this one. So if you're Swedish, go ahead and put down below what terrified you about the States. I might do another one on what Americans will be terrified about, because this has been a popular video and it's fun for me to do, and it's especially fresh in my mind from going back to the States and coming back to Sweden. So thanks again for this one. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Hej då!